Why don't people in power talk about the obvious, most important things? During the 2024 presidential campaign, both Kamala Harris and Donald Trump seemed to struggle to find topics that would sway voters to them. Harris promised to provide $25,000 toward first home purchases, alluding to the shortage of housing. Trump, sticking to his anti-immigration theme, worried that immigrants living in the U.S. are, quote, eating the dogs, they're eating the cats in a small town in Ohio. Both candidates steered clear of the most obvious and important topics. I'd like to shine a light on some of what they should have been focusing on. The writers of the U.S. Constitution stated their goal was, quote, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, end quote. Housing and illegal immigration do fit in there, but I submit that there are more clear and important areas to consider. Climate is talked about, which is good, but what was said is not. While Trump called protecting the environment a, quote, green new scam, Kamala Harris has said that she will, quote, unite Americans to tackle the climate crisis. Not a lot of detail in there, either campaign. Now on to the easy ones. The U.S. has 5,000 nuclear weapons. Why? The cost of upgrading and maintaining these weapons is estimated to be $756 billion over the next 10 years. Instead, let's negotiate again with our, quote, enemies and cut this down to about 100 nukes. Savings? About $700 billion and probably the salvation of our species. Most countries have universal health care. Our own NIH says universal health care is about 13% cheaper than private health care. This would be a savings of about $450 billion per year. It's simpler and more equitable. Growing inequality is a danger to our democracy. Are we going back to the time when the kings and princes lived in their castles and the rest of us peons scraped by in our hovels outside the castle walls? It seems so. Tax the money hoarders. There is no reason that any one person needs more than, $10 million as a conservative figure. Consider the tax rates in the 1950s and look at how much better off the middle class relatively was then. Single breadwinners in each family, most households could afford a car, a home, higher education, and on. And the rich, despite tax rates of up to 90%, the rich somehow stayed relatively wealthy. The U.S. debt, $36 trillion at this time, is a huge anchor on our economy. As with any household, if you're just paying off your debt, plus the interest, instead of paying for improving your life, you are stuck in quicksand. This debt requires a huge percentage of our GDP just to pay for our past, not our future. There's little talk about the homeless, about the housing shortage, about the lack of health care for some, etc. All this should be bundled into one point. There should be a baseline for all people below which we strive to let no one fall. This baseline means not that people can dawdle around and still live comfortably. It means that those who are temporarily or permanently unable to support themselves will not have to live hungry and cold under a bridge somewhere. Once this baseline is established to a reasonable conclusion and calculated, the arguments from then on should only be about how best to provide for the people so this system is not scammed in any way. All corporations should be benefit corporations. In each, they have to show a benefit to society. No longer should our capitalist system allow a corporation to gain profits by making the world less habitable. No longer should corporations be able to exploit the citizens so they can hoard the wealth. A benefit corporation must not only strive to give a profit to their shareholders, but must show that their activities also benefit society in general. Society decides what the rules are to be for corporations, not vice versa. Plastics are everywhere. Plastics are inside our bodies, at the bottom of the ocean, and in just about every product made. About 380 million tons of plastic products are made each year. In contrast, all humans alive today weigh about 600 million tons. We will not only drown ourselves and the planet in plastic, but is also invading our bodies and our food. Why? For profit and convenience. Humans, we may soon find out, prefer convenience to self-preservation. We try to help the planet by reducing our energy use. We make appliances and vehicles that use less energy. We switch to sources of energy that are safer for the planet, and yet our use of energy is growing exponentially. And besides all the people on Earth who are beginning to have access to cheaper energy in different countries, we also have energy gobblers popping up. Cryptocurrency, for example, uses about the same amount of electricity as the nation of the Netherlands. Crypto mining requires enormous amounts of computer work 24/7 on calculations to create this wealth. Artificial intelligence applications have also massive computational requirements, which again suck up enormous amounts of electricity. And why? So we can make cute videos of cats playing piano or some silly thing? AI is being used in more and more industries, so more and more computing and energy hogging will be coming our way. As we try to switch to safer energy sources, we may not be able to keep up with our ever-expanding energy demands, even if we keep our carbon-guzzling power plants. Does anybody talk about this? No. So I can see why people are tired of how our country is run at this time. Our politicians talk about everything under the sun except the most important topics. Trump, for example, brought up an immigrant problem he perceived in one town in Ohio during the presidential debates. Really? Nothing more important to bring up? Harris promised $25,000 to new home buyers. Really? Who still could afford a house? And where will these non-existent houses spring up? We cannot let our politicians and power brokers steer us away from the bigger problems we are facing. They are obvious. They are existential problems. They will affect our country for generations, and they all have solutions. We must hold those in power accountable and require them to deal with the obvious problems first. I don't offer solutions here. I offer some direction we should look and the things we should see that are actually right in front of our eyes every day if we only take the time to notice.